ようこそどうぞはじめまして
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. We're squeezing an episode in here in our busy Memorial Day weekend. Although I think it sounds like my neighbors are having more fun than I am right now. They've been partying for the past 24 hours. I don't know about you guys.
I don't know. Recording a podcast sounds like the best use of one's time.
We're partying right now.
Exactly. The party that is the fantastic deal you get when you subscribe to the GLORIO network and get all of these great podcasts.
Yes. Listening to our podcast is far better than listening to music and dancing and eating and drinking and having a good time with your friends and family. Without question. But,
we are their friends and family.
Yes. You only need us. You don't need anyone else in your life.
Well, okay, hold on.
Some kind of brainwashing or something. Oh, that got dark. Anyway, so I think we have a fun show prepared today. We're going to continue on with our format here. We're going to talk about some new stuff. I'll get to rant about my current feelings about Carole and Tuesday, which I think will be interesting. And yeah, let's get into it. But I guess, I need to introduce everybody. I am Jel, and we have our base crew, this base American crew this week. So
running a skeleton crew today.
Yeah, we've got Iroh.
I'm still here.
Is that just your new?
Is that just your thing? Yeah, just like. Come on, man! You got to come up with good bits every week, like I do, man.
It is a step up from in the early days when it was just hello.
Sure, I agree. Yes. At least there's a little bit more personality there.
Thanks, jeez. Wow.
we love you, Iroh, and we appreciate your presence on the podcast.
Your steadfast commitment to service.
Every episode of everything that we record, you are here for us. So yes, Thank you. But we also have G with us.
I just have a lot of thoughts right now about a very popular pseudo-historical fantasy tale filled with intrigue and politics that recently tragically ended rather anticlimactically. That's right, folks. I'm here to give my hot takes on Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
What is the actual game that you're talking about that just came out?
I've been playing the crap out of Total War Three Kingdoms, which is the latest in the Creative Assembly tactics strategy game, real-time tactics strategy game.
Right, the latest one. They've done many other historical periods, but yes. Yes, quote unquote historical. Yes, the quote unquote historical period known as the ancient Chinese Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That has been a lot of fun, a lot of political intrigue, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of people backstabbing me. I'm just out here trying to unite all of China. Long divided, the realm must be united, and it must be united under my fucking heel. So I don't know why everybody else is being so goddamn dramatic about this. So like the real uniting of China, then.
Yes, exactly, like the real medieval China. Yes, but you know what? I feel like somehow, despite that, I think the ending of my campaign will still end more excitingly than the last episode of Game of Thrones did. So, look forward to that.
So I was hoping Game of Thrones would never make it into this podcast, but there you go. Yeah.
We're gonna, anyway. Now the show ending, as the GLORIO blog, as the GLORIO network is, we are always we always bring the most relevant discussion and dialogue to the zeitgeist. We're talking about the legendary 1988 science fiction OVA, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and Evangelion. We're always talking about the most relevant things, so I feel like it's only natural that now that Game of Thrones has ended, that we should start our recap and discussion podcast.
Yeah. Now that we've had a week, now that we've had a week to let it settle in, right? That's a week later, but anyway, I was gonna ask what's everybody been up to, but I guess we know what you've been doing. Iro, what have you?
Yeah, so
you asked fun or interesting?
You asked me to bring this up on the podcast because we've been shit talking it for the past week.
Yes,
I picked up a book recently. It was for free, but I got a copy of Mecha Samurai Empire.
Oh boy, that sounds very cool, Iro.
A book.
In fact, that sounds like something right up my alley.
Indeed.
Do tell.
It's a novel. I believe it's a pseudo sequel to a book titled United States of Japan.
Oh.
Which won the Seiun Award in Japan a few years back, and I believe Mecha Samurai Empire is up for this year's Seiun Award.
Right.
I don't think it's very good.
I did not get that impression based on what you were.
Yeah,
some of the stuff you've been saying about it.
Yeah, based on some of you've posted pictures of some of the pages in our Discord, and no, that book doesn't seem great.
Allow me to read the first page. After copyright and dedication and endorsements, etc., the first page is as follows: I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of Japan and to the empire for which it stands, one nation, under the emperor, indivisible, with order and justice for all.
But don't you get it? Guys, don't you get it? They took the Pledge of Allegiance, but added in surface-level Japanese tropes into it.
Yes, so the plot of this book appears to be that back during World War II, in the 1940s, a Japanese scientist saw a tank and saw a samurai standing next to the tank and was like, what if I combine these? And so they made mechs.
Wait, oh my god. I remember reading that passage, but you saying it out loud, just, like, that seems like the most fucking, like that is the most weeb fucking, like, premise for how mechs were created, is, like, because here's the thing, right? Like, as somebody who has studied, history quite extensively, I know what Japanese tanks looked like, and I know what Japanese samurai looked like, and the idea of, in the 1940s, just, like, a fucking samurai, like, I imagine your bog standard, like, lamellar, like, armor, like, dude with a hat and a mask with a mustache, ass samurai, just happened to walk into a field.
It was supposed to be like a military parade or something, but
sure, I'm sure it's just the image of like that is what inspires some fucking dude in 1940s Japan to invent mechs.
Japan having mechs in during the Pacific Front of World War II allows the Axis to win, and so Germany and Japan split America down the middle, and
well, Iro, this sounds like a pretty interesting premise. I feel like you could probably write some very interesting passages about the implications of what does an America ruled by Japan look like, especially a Japan that isn't pacified in a post-war occupation, an imperial Japan that survives into the 90s. Surely this book has some interesting things to say about the implications of the policies and the sociological beliefs that were held by 1940s imperial Japan.
What if in 1994 we had VR video games and giant robots and the internet? Would you like a hit video game, Liquid Gear?
Oh, really?
What about
Liquid Gear?
What about hit video game Bionic Commander, where you play as a Japanese soldier with a bionic leg, fighting?
Whoa, a bionic leg!
Fighting evil FDR.
So this is just
instead of Hitler.
So this is.
What if we went into the mech bay and all of the mech bays were named after the bosses from Mega Man 2?
Stop! You're hurting me.
What if we went to college and we studied the gray minds of literature, such as Hideaki Anno and Hayao Miyazaki, What if your class was taught by Hideo Kojima?
And Miyazaki and Kojima would not exist in an alternate history Japan where Imperial Japan won. Like, these are all artists and authors who were like strictly defined by the experiences they had growing up, whether that was like the cultural like media that they consumed or their experiences in a post-war Japan. Like, these, you can't do this. You can't do this. This is just
this is just Ready Player One, right? Like, let's
Ready Player One was even weebier.
Let's jerk off by referencing a bunch of stuff I liked and the 5 things I know about Japan and stuff them into a.
You see, we have to go to the, mech college and learn Kenjutsu.
Oh my god!
And
it's just
we're training with our Bokuto and our learning the EI.
Oh my god! It's like, here's the thing, right? Like, I think look, the latest Wolfenstein game I actually enjoyed a ton because it actually I'm not gonna get into it too much here because you guys have heard me talk about it in the Discord, but because the premise of the latest Wolfenstein game is that stop me if you've heard this before, America loses the war and is occupied by the Germans, and it kind of takes place in an alternate history like 20-30 years after the war is already over, and kind of examines like what does America look like under Nazi rule, and the kind of insidious message of actually how little does white America change under Nazi rule, and it asks and deals in some very and I don't think it always lands the mark. I think, frankly, while they're very funny, all of the scenes with Hitler in the new Wolfenstein game are a little cringeworthy, but overall, I think the game does ask some interesting questions. The problem with Mecha Samurai Empire, based on the pages I've read and what you've told us, Iro, is this seems like a book where the person, the writer, arrived at a conclusion first of I want to write a story about giant robots in a kind of 90s gonzo pseudo cyberpunk setting.
There's nothing wrong with that inherently.
Right. No, that can be cool, but then they worked backwards from there, and the conclusion they arrived at is, I'm going to write an alternate history about Japan winning the war and then not deal with any of the deeply problematic implications of what that alternate world looks like.
Well, you see, there's a group of American terrorists called the George Washingtons, and they've cobbled together their mechs from a lot of other mechs, and they've named them all after former presidents.
See.
And their leader is a crazy visionary who's had dreams and visions of another world where America won the war against Japan, and
I guess
and the world entered an era of peace and prosperity.
Yeah,
but
that's what actually happened. But
look, I feel I don't want to give this book more time than it deserves. But I think the thing I really want to get across is I think where this book really missteps beyond all the basic narrative pratfalls that you've mentioned is alternate history where all you do is just do a complete 180 on every historical trope is not a very interesting alternate history. It
is the easiest possible way to do alternate history.
Right, the most boring way you can do alternate history is, what if A was B and 1 was 2? I think the most interesting alternate histories are the ones where some stuff changes, but then a lot of stuff doesn't, and kind of gets into not to put on my fucking Legend of the GLORIO Heroes discourse cap on in this podcast, but dealing with how much of society actually changes because of a change in leadership, and as a result of what stays the same, it makes what changes all the more striking and interesting, I guess. And it feels like this book doesn't really do any of that.
Has no intention of exploring anything other than the author wanting to name drop stuff from Japan he liked, is what it sounds like.
Also, they're still fighting Nazis.
Right, that's...
They're
Like,
like,
it
oh
feels-
no, there's war starting between the United States of Japan and the Germany side.
Right, like this weird fucking implication. Oh, Japan, Imperial Japan are the good guys fighting against the Nazis. Seems very. It feels like, again, I don't know this author's backstory. I don't know what they studied, but it very much feels like somebody who, like, you know, honestly, it feels like a weeb. It feels like a weeb in America who grew up on, like, American entertainment media. So, like, they have a baseline understanding that the Nazis are bad, but also because they're a weeb, you know, they just consume a bunch of Japanese media as well, but haven't really, like, done their work to learn about, like, you know, Japan's own rather sordid history, you know, from that time period.
Yeah, I guess my problem is if tonally this was a lot sillier, I would probably be okay with a lot of the stuff. But it tries like all the endorsements are about how it's thought provoking and serious and interesting, and you know, like an amazing what if premise, etc. And it's like it's not really any of those things. It's just kind of a like very pulpy mech military thing, but it wants to be taken seriously as like a like pseudo what if historical fiction thing,
Right?
question mark.
But
like it's I don't enjoy it. It's, I don't want to throw too much shade, but
I think
boy,
look, I mean, like, look, we throw plenty of shade on bad anime. I think it's only appropriate that we throw shade on, you know, bad books every now and then too. So
I think I'm just annoyed that this isn't somebody's like fan fiction and it's actually a published book that people pay money for and is up for awards. But
I mean, again, it's like, you know, we you know, I always want to avoid getting too deep into this territory, but like, you know, it's sometimes definitely I feel like, especially, you know, us here on this podcast, we sometimes get that feeling of like, you know,
are we the crazies?
Right, like, is the asylum running the show, and like we're the crazy ones? Like,
nah, man.
You know, because like, yeah, I mean, look, you know, again, I don't want to get this all, mainstream audiences, you know, they have low standards, but like, you know, sometimes it kind of feels that way.
Sometimes the shoe fits.
Yeah, but
so that's what I've been doing.
All right, well, that's I don't know what to say about that. We'll have to. Is there? So that's like the sequel you said. So there's like another book,
so.
or they're related or something. It's the same author.
I think they are related.
Yeah.
Well, you know, let's just hope that Planet With is the one that wins the Seiun Awards then, or
well,
whatever.
There's different categories.
Yeah.
It's up for the best translated novel category.
Oh, that's highly specific. Okay, I was gonna say, I feel, in all seriousness, I was gonna say, I don't think this thing has a fucking chance if it's being put next to like Planet With and like what else got nominated? I've already forgotten.
Gridman.
Yeah, Gridman. Right, Gridman. But like
in its own little niche category.
But if it's in its own little niche, you know, that's kind of like, you know, not to like denigrate it, but that's like when, you know, you win the like best makeup award in the Oscars. You know, it's like you're in such a narrow lane that like, yes, it's of course an achievement that should be, you know, lauded, but also like, how much competition is there really, you know?
Yeah. All right. I'll be interested to see what happens with the Seiun Awards, that aside.
I don't know. Maybe this is all a dark portent. Maybe Iro has accidentally like fucking activated his dark power.
Oh no!
You know, his dark his dark random manga theater powers with Mecha Samurai Empire, and we'll all be talking about fucking the Mecha Samurai Empire anime in like spring 2020 in our like anime preview podcast.
I can see it now.
Don't do this to me.
Some kind of like,
and I'll have to watch it. I'll have to watch it. You know, like,
some kind of like co-production with Netflix. It's gonna be all CG, and I can see it now.
I don't want to play Inside Baseball right now, but we got to get our thing off the ground. Like, we got to get that thing off the ground.
I'm working on it, dude.
All right, let's move along before we get too inside baseball here. Okay, let's move along to the news.
Let's talk about the important topics.
Great.
Well, yes, quote
What's
unquote.
in the news today, Joe?
Topics. I've jotted down a few things we can talk about, and let's kick things off with talking about Ufotable and some of their troubles they've been having. When I first read this headline, I thought it said the president just stepped down, and then I realized later the president of Ufotable just stepped down from some like anime event committee thing that he was the head of.
Oh, so he didn't even actually step down.
I guess it is still notable because there's been no reason given, and everyone is still assuming that it's related to him kind of withdrawing from things after their recent tax troubles, which
I mean,
for reference, Ufotable is being investigated for alleged tax fraud. I believe what they skimmed some off the top of from a charity auction for the 2011
which is pretty scummy if true. Like,
don't steal from charity.
That's like really gross if that's true.
They had to fund Fate Zero somehow, right, guys?
Also, pay your taxes.
Yeah, because and I guess we keep saying allegedly because no charges have actually been brought out, but this was uncovered in like some kind of public records or something like that. So I don't know. To me, it sounds like when there's smoke, there's fire in this instance. But either way, Ufotable has been tangled up in that. I mean, it sounds like if that was a problem, maybe because I think they owe about $3.5 million. They were saying, surely there's enough fake money.
You make that in like 2 weeks in Grand Order or whatever. Like,
right. Well, I don't know how much money Ufotable is making off Grand Order, but I'm sure
Sony will bail them out probably.
Look, I mean, I think it's all connected.
How many copies did fucking Heaven's Feel sell? Like 60,000 or some shit. Like,
yeah. I think at its core, right? It's like what I said at the start: don't steal from charity, pay your taxes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
If this is actually, if it turns out that, there are if we find reasonable, actionable proof, then the CEO probably should step down, or they should at least be held financially accountable. I mean, let's be fucking real. I'm all going to be honest. 3.5 million is a fucking drop in the bucket. That's fucking chump change.
Right.
You can't,
on a corporate level, yeah.
On a corporate level, the sad fact that that's if you can even get that much out of a corporation for something they did wrong, that you can already consider that a minor victory, should tell you how fucked everything is. But yeah, I mean, I guess at its, also at the same time though, I hope this doesn't disrupt the lives of the people lower down the rung too much. The people who had nothing to do with this, right?
One of these days,
hopefully,
we'll get a good news story about an anime studio, right? Not stealing from charity and working their employees to death for no money.
Yeah,
that's a bad look. So
yeah. Well, you know what? That all said, Demon Slayer still looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks good.
maybe that'll help them pay their back taxes.
Well,
we'll see about that. We're still watching that, but there's a reason we're not really covering it in this podcast.
Speaking of Ufotable adjacent stuff.
Yes.
So
I don't know how much there's actually talk about this, but I wanted to mention Kalafina, who has been in many Ufotable and Fate-related productions, broke up in March, and they're already trying to get back together.
Well, it was basically understood by everybody that they broke up because of manager stuff, because Yukikajura quit because they gave her to some shitty new manager or something, and then that caused problems for Kalafina and they had to break up. So
it's just so sad that you have to
record company politics
because they couldn't, we all kind of inferred that based on the
situation,
situation, but officially, they had to put on the whole airs of after all this time we're breaking up and moving on to other projects and everything. And
I mean,
now that they're released from their obligations or whatever, it's 2 months later and hey, let's get the gang back together.
Sure. I mean, hey, why not? Honestly, if the only thing that was really stopping them was just bad leadership, like fuck it, like why not leave and then like just get back together without the toxic elements and do your own thing. Like I think I try to see this as good news, like assuming that
sure.
They are getting back together because they've excised the toxic elements of like what originally caused them to like break up in the first place.
I think there's like one person who's still under contract at the studio or something who would have to quit or something like that.
So like, hey, if this means that we get Kalafina doing
their thing, doing their Kalafina thing.
Their Kalafina thing, yes. Be the Kalafina thing of being like maybe the only interesting female music group in Japan, then so be it.
That does anime openings, but yes.
Yes, fine.
What
but
about
it does anime
AKB48, G?
Yeah.
So
I think what we've learned so far is that anime studios are evil and record companies.
Oh, we've known that for fucking a million goddamn years.
Yes. So let's just
I'm pretty sure it's like an open secret that the Japanese record industries is like fucking almost to the man entirely like Yakuza affiliated down to its core. So
yeah. So anyway, that'll be good to get them back together because, like you said, G, I think they fill a role. Like the only like grown ass women singing anime songs.
Yeah, sorry, fine. To phrase it better, yes, that is probably more what I meant.
Yes, we're as opposed to all this squeaky voiced voice actresses doing their own OPs and stuff. It's nice.
Right. And like, I'm not even saying like that stuff's all entirely bad. You know what? Like Snow Halation is not a bad track. But
that's a surprising take from you, G. Okay.
It's fine. It's catchy, But but my point being, like, I'm not saying we're like, fuck that idol shit. But just
I am. But yes, go on.
Not our speed, Generally, not our speed.
All right. Let's move along to a story that I don't know why this is coming out now, but it did in the past 2 weeks because I guess somebody must have unearthed this interview from several years ago.
Sure.
With a original writer from the American Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. And in this interview, he basically reveals that Kunihiko Ikuhara directed one of the pilot episodes that he wrote.
Okay. I believe it. A lot of those old cartoons were outsourced in Japan, in one way or another.
Yes. So you can officially add, Ikuhara's done Sailor Moon and, Revolutionary Girl Utena, Penguin Drum, currently doing Sarazanmai, and you can add Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to his long list of credits, apparently.
I think that makes a lot of sense, I think this really casts a new light on the statement from Inferno Cop and Gridman director Akira Amamiya, who stated that his desire for Gridman was to surpass the works of Shakespeare and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think this gives a whole new context to that statement.
Yeah,
he's I guess he's an Ikuhara fan, and the bar was set that high.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was interesting reading the article because I guess he the guy couldn't like actually remember his name, but like if you put all the
clues, right?
Right.
Yeah, if you put all the context clues together, because they were outsourcing some of their work to Toei, which is where Ikuhara was working at the time during the kind of the pre-Sailor Moon era there, and they're saying most of the time it would go to like their B team or whatever, but I guess for whatever reason that one episode got to the their A team, and I watched a little bit of the episode. I was kind of curious, and it does look very good for an 80s American cartoon, but nothing particularly.
How good is the sequence where Donatello walks up an endless spiraling staircase to get into their like pizza shooting turtle van?
I only watched like 2 or 3 minutes. There was no crazy Ikuhara trademark there. I'm sure he was just cashing his check.
Oh, sure. I mean, especially back then, like, a lot of the creators that we now hold sacrosanct, like, you look back at like the old stuff they did, you know, like for me, it's like looking at like some of like, you know, Imaishi's like Lupin stuff. It's like back when like
work on Metabots.
Or, well, I think even by Metabots, you actually already start to see Imaishi starting to express his, like,
but like what
very,
about, like
specific house style. But, like, I mean, if you go far back as, like, the stuff he did for, like, Lupin and stuff, it's, it's much more, like, you know, you wouldn't really know it unless, like, you know,
you knew to look for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's, at some point in your career, you're just getting your foot in the door and
totally
keeping food on the table. So you got to stay in pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I said, because I mean, 80s cartoons,
right?
American 80s cartoons look like garbage. Yep. So by comparison, it looks fantastic.
Shout out to Transformers the movie by Toei. Yes. Also, shout out to the like 2 episodes of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends that were done by Toei.
I think we all, or at least we know. I don't know if the wider audience as a whole knows, but like, you know, basically every notable 80s cartoon, like, animated intro was,
shout out to the
like,
Thundercats intro.
Right, like, you know, the infamous Thundercats intro, or, like, you know, the amazing X-Men intro, like, all of those things were outsourced to Japan. Like, you know, anytime I see some fucking grognard-ass motherfucker be like, how come cartoons these days don't look as good as they did in the 80s? It's like, well, A, they never looked that good. You only think they look good because you're watching, like, the 30-second intros, you know, that were usually outsourced to Japan. But, you know, also, like, I don't know. Sorry, those shows never look that good.
Yeah, no, if you actually watch... like, I was there. I remember. They do not look good.
No.
But yes, shout out to some of those other things, like the Transformers movie that scarred me for life as a child.
Were you like many a kid from that time period where the Transformers movie was like your first introduction to the concept of mortality?
I was, because I like, I'm old enough. I went to see it in the theater. I was very
sure. Okay.
And at that point, you know, nobody has any expectations or anything. You just think, I'm going to go watch Transformers. I love the TV show.
Right.
And then just watching every single one of your beloved favorite characters get murdered on screen in the first, like, 10 minutes.
Man.
And then, like, they start swearing later and stuff like that. And you're like,
there's exactly one swear word in that movie because they had to make it PG-13 so the parents would bring their kids.
Yeah, right. When you're like 4 years old, that's shocking. Like, that's,
sure,
you know. And I was like, I didn't want to watch it again until like I was an adult. Like I was scarred for my entire childhood. So. Thanks, Toei, for ruining my love of Transformers. But anyway, shout out to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I guess I liked that. I liked that show too.
Shout out to the live action movie. I had Jim Henson work on it. Whatever, that movie's all right.
Choreography in that movie surprisingly solid for rubber suits fighting.
I did love the first movie.
The first one,
kid.
yeah.
The ones after that are all hot garbage for sure. But anyway, let's move along before we start quoting Vanilla Ice. So there were 2 dub announcements that were very relevant to my interests and also strange.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They're just like out of nowhere. They announced they're finally doing a dub for both Golden Time, which I will note aired in 2013.
Jesus Christ.
And Nichijou, one of my all-time favorite animes, that not only aired like back in either 2010 or 2011, but also just got a video release in 2017.
I mean, look, I think Nichijou has always been kind of like the weird, like, bastard child of anime, like, rights custody discussion.
Yeah,
like,
it's cursed. Let's just call it what it is. It's cursed.
Like, fucking Nichijou is the fucking orphan kid who has been passed between, like, 13 goddamn foster parents. And, like... Yes. Some of them mean well, but then go broke, and others just straight up don't give a shit. Like,
yeah. Before we get into the Nichijou, let me just shout out to Golden Time, which I feel is a very underappreciated.
Shout out to Golden Time, Tada Banri.
Yes,
who I would like to be friends with, but also he makes very poor life choices.
Yeah, everybody missed Golden Time, which many people did. It was it's a very good kind of romantic comedy drama from the author of Toradora. I actually think it's better than Toradora. So
yeah,
fight me,
definitely. 100% agreed. Fuck Toradora.
It's very. I do like Toradora, I will point out personally, but I think Golden Time is better, and it takes kind of. Well, they're not even really that similar. You can kind of tell it's the same writer, but like the plot and the themes of it, because like the character is a little bit older, and there's a little bit of a supernatural element involved in it. But having the characters kind of be very like self-reflective and stuff like that is very much similar to the you can tell it's the same author. But I thought it was really good. One of my favorite shows of the GLORIO era, and randomly got announced for a dub for some reason 6 years after it aired. So go check that out. Sure. But yeah, Nichijou has been cursed, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
because it, like, when it first came out on Crunchyroll like everything else, and it was licensed by Bandai, who was licensing all the Kyoani stuff.
Yeah, they were doing anime back then.
Yeah, and they announced, yep, we're gonna do Nichijou, and like 3 months later they shut their doors.
Right, and then
so it got stuck in licensing hell. Eventually they had to take it off Crunchyroll after a couple years, and then there was just no legal way to watch it. But then it got resurrected in the ill-fated Crunchyroll Funimation partnership.
Yep.
So Funimation technically, I think, got the license, but they put it back on Crunchyroll as part of this partnership, and all was great with the world again, except 3 months, it might even less than 3 months after it got back on Crunchyroll, their deal split and they had to take it back off again. And
oh boy.
So then Funimation did actually end up putting it back. I think so. You can watch it on Funimation right now. Finally, that it got back up there, and they put out a box set, which I bought. They finally did do a physical release, and that was only like barely 2 years ago. So it's really weird to me that now they're deciding to do a dub and a new release again.
Right. I mean, I guess I wonder how much of it is like I wonder how much of it is like a desire to just be like, okay, fine, we've officially done it. We never have to deal with Nichijou ever again. And I wonder how much of it is like maybe there is actually just somebody at Funimation who is like
really
fighting tooth and nail for Golden Time and Nichijou. Just like,
well, Golden Time. I should point out, it's Golden Time is not Funimation. That's actually Sentai, I think.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought they were both Funimation. Okay,
no,
well,
so that just happened. That was pure coincidence that two
of my time. Okay,
two shows that I very much like from a long time ago are randomly
your brand of bullshit
getting dubs. But I mean, like, is there even that much of a demand for Nichijou? Like, that's
the weird thing, because Nichijou, like, look, I'm always going to be the guy who's fucking saying that Nichijou might be KyoAni's best anime, like. Yep. But also, like, Nichijou was not that popular, at least back then. It did not sell that well.
It's a cult favorite for sure, but like,
yeah,
not many anime get 2 releases in 2 years. Like, that's really weird.
Yeah,
that, like I like you said, I do wonder if there's just somebody at Funimation with enough power that is pushing for it. I don't know.
But hey, I mean. I don't know. Hope that dub is good and the show is good. So
yeah, they just started showing clips of it over the past 2 days.
That's dangerous. That's how you send somebody down a Nichijou YouTube hole.
They put out the clip with the deer today, with the president fighting the deer.
That's a good one.
Which is a good
Street
one.
Fighter 4 ink splashes and everything.
So yeah, I mean, I just don't want. I'm not buying it again.
Right.
The dub is cool and all. So like,
I mean, look, like, whoever does the dub for that, look, I wish you the best. I hope you do a great job, but also like, I feel like the Japanese voice cast for Nichijou is like god tier. Like,
yes.
It is some of the best screeching in anime I have. Right, yes, it is some of the best screeching and squealing I have heard in an anime voiceover. So,
all right, well, shout out to Nichijou because we do that enough.
Yeah,
but let's move along.
Yes, to go back to fucking Dirty Guy Jin having basic bitch tastes in anime.
Whoa! Yeah, I figured we would. I figured we'd follow up on this because we talked about the legendary Gundam creator Tomino's take on Into the Spider-Verse last episode. So this week there was some interviews going around with the directors of Into the Spider-Verse and their anime influences. And
what are their anime influences, Joel?
Hey guys, have you ever heard of Sailor Moon and Akira?
And
boy,
the works of Hayao Miyazaki.
It's like you're lowballing so hard, right? Like,
this is so fucking. These guys are so fucking basic. Like, I don't even want to be. I'm not even trying to be mean because I love Spider-Verse. I wasn't here for that podcast, but Spider-Verse was maybe the actual best anime of 2018. Like, such a fantastic movie. Like, in terms of both the storytelling and the artistry, some of the best art direction I've ever seen. Like, no lie. Like, when I look, we'll get to Promare later in this podcast, but like, when I was looking at Spider-Verse, I was like, this is some of the best, like, some of the best directed CG I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That said, I think the story is interesting, and I think weirdly relevant, because I think arguably one of the weakest parts of Spider-Verse is the character Penny Parker, who, for those of you who haven't watched the movie or need a reminder, is one of the alternate universe spider people.
She's the actual anime character.
Right, she comes from an anime universe, and her character is very, like, kind of bog standard anime tropes. Like, she's a schoolgirl who does the peace sign, and I'm not saying real Japanese schoolgirls don't do the peace sign, but right, she's got a robot. She pilots a mech. Like, she dresses as a schoolgirl. Like, when she does stuff, like the very stereotypical like anime effects show up, and again, it's not like bad, it's not like, oh, this is like offensive or anything.
It's minor, but it's like a relatively minor character.
Right, like, but yeah, she's a minor character and arguably kind of the least interesting of the three, like, of the three weird spider people that are in that movie, and you know what? Reading this article, I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? That tracks now. Like, if all you fucking know of anime is Miyazaki, Sailor Moon, and Akira, like, congratulations. Like, you are doing like fucking Simpsons tier anime parodies. Like, you are so fucking far behind the curve. Like, the fact that you cannot list like a single relevant anime made in the last, like, you know what? I'll be
20 years.
I'll be generous. 20 years. I was gonna say 10. I'll be generous. 20. Like, hell, if you at least said Cowboy Bebop, even that would be like slightly more tolerable. I would at least tolerate that more than fucking Sailor Moon and Akira. And that's not to denigrate Sailor Moon and Akira. Those are both great and important works of anime, but also they were important like fucking 30 years ago. Like, they're your old man's anime. Like,
well, that's not even just the age. Like, those are like super, like, I wouldn't call like Akira mainstream per se, but that's like a very popular, like.
But here's the thing: I wouldn't say Akira the anime itself is not mainstream. Akira the movie is fucking weird as hell.
Right.
But like Akira's reputation, I would argue that's actually very mainstream.
Right. It's very influential. Like,
that's it's like saying, oh yeah, my influences for my science fiction story were Star Wars and Star Trek. Yeah, right. Like,
that's actually a good comparison.
It's in that right. That it's in that neighborhood, sure.
Right, like, it's an entirely valid and establishing work for its time period. No one's going to deny that. It's just like, again, I'm not saying, oh, I needed the Spider-Verse directors to be anime experts, right. But like, I think it's kind of telling, like, how, again, I'm not even joking when I say how fucking basic it is.
I would like to see more. Yeah. I mean, just before I move on to what I was just going to say, I do want to point out, this is all, it was still a very positive conversation. Like, they're saying, we felt like we were playing catch up to Japan or whatever with this movie and everything, which I thought was interesting because in Tomino's comments last episode that we talked about, he was saying how, Spider-Verse kind of set a new bar where now anime's got.
Oh, totally. I mean, I'm mostly fucking just, shit talking here. I'm talking about like their fucking garbage taste in anime. In actuality, I did like the interview because yes, like, it is kind of interesting that, like, I mean, it's very cliche, right? But like, I think what both creators are saying is, oh, we can learn a lot from the other, like from our counterparts. Yeah. Like, I think when the directors of Into the Spider-Verse are talking about catching up to Japan, I think they are in a lot of ways talking about like, I mean, look, we've been worn down by like our cynicism about anime as a medium, but like, in many ways, anime is a far more like narrative and artistically sophisticated medium than Western cartoons in a lot of ways. I'm not just talking about like Akira or Miyazaki, I'm talking about like, look, man, fucking nobody is going to make a fucking Western cartoon in 2019 that holds a candle to like, Gridman or, to the ends of the universe or whatever the fuck that South Pole one is called, or Shirobako, right? Like, or whatever's our fucking best anime of any given year, on the blog. Like, they just don't. It's not. I don't think it's ever a case that the creators don't have that scope. I know a lot of Western artists who are very creative. But like
they have to deal with the perception of animation in the West being a kid's thing.
Right. The market pressures being what they are. And then I think the other way around, what Tomino is saying is like we can learn a lot from Into the Spider-Verse in a sense of like a lot of the technical artistry, like Into the Spider-Verse is one of the first like movies I've seen that legitimately like makes the argument for like what CG can be as a medium. Like you compare like Into the Spider-Verse's CG versus like the average CG you find in most anime. Like again, we will get into this with the Promare conversation later, but like I think Japan is only just barely beginning to understand like what CG can do beyond just emulating hand-drawn anime.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna point out because I get you, G. Like, watch some other anime. Like, if you're really into animation, I feel like you should be expanding your pool into like what people have been doing beyond past the.
Nah, dude, you'd be fucking surprised.
It's called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Like, I was trying to think of like, Western references to like things outside the normal pool, and the best thing I could think of was like Steven Universe pulling the classroom scenes from Gunbuster. Like that's like the deepest cut I could think of in a Western cartoon, which is a pretty decent
they usually
cut.
No, that is a good deep cut, but I would say in general, like I think most Western cartoons, like I think these days, especially like with the rise of the millennial like led, the millennial cartoon showrunners, you are definitely starting to see more anime influence.
I hear a lot of stuff about OKKO.
Right. I mean, well, OKKO's like intro was storyboarded by Imaishi.
Oh, well then, okay.
So if nothing else, like. But also, like, Trigger are a bunch of, like, I mean, yeah, they are Westaboos, to use that term, right? They love Western shit, so they're kind of the exception to the rule. But, like...
I forget that, like Steven Universe again had, what's his name, work on one of their episodes, too.
Yes,
I can't think of his name right now.
Horikoshi
something.
No,
Horikoshi. No, that's... Horifumi, yes, thank you, yes.
So, yeah, they've been in... Yeah. So they're all up in there, but Trigger's kind of exist in their own universe.
Right. Yes, they do.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just kind of an interesting conversation, I think,
totally,
and sort of the back and forth of what each side can learn from. We'll save the rest of the CG talk for Promare. So let's move on. So one of these stories I picked up I thought was interesting. There was a survey in which 80% of Japanese high school girls identified themselves as otaku of something, which, we usually refer to otaku in the terms of like anime and anime adjacent like games and stuff. Right. But really it just means you're like really into something, right?
Right.
And I just thought this was interesting because in the survey results, the vast majority, when they said otaku, they were mostly referring to like, music or idols or something like that.
Yeah, but, I found that weirdly surprising. I mean, look, I mean, maybe again, it's because of like our perception of like idol culture, but I guess I'd always made the rather like backhanded assumption that idol otaku were, fucking your standard like, fat, smelly, horrible, like nerds.
Well, I mean,
just based on what you hear about idol fans, but like,
I guess I forgot that. Oh, right. These things were originally like intended to be aimed towards, young female audiences.
They could also be referring to male idol groups too, but
oh, you're right. Which
is probably the majority of it. But still, a good 13% were. Or what was the actual percent? I forget. It was still a pretty good proportion that actually did say they were into anime, which I was much higher than I expected because everything else was like 1% mixed all over the place.
Huh, that's kind of interesting.
I mostly just found it interesting how the meaning of otaku has changed over the years. Or at least, I guess the meaning has always technically been the same, but like the
didn't like in Japan didn't have like a major negative connotation.
It was a very negative original. It was basically like
the infamous. There was that infamous incident, right back in, was it the early 2000s or the 90s? The Akihabara like stabbing incident. I think what it was like.
Yeah,
I'm not making this up.
Yeah,
I definitely remember hearing about
what
this
you're talking about.
And like hearing about how that like lent a very like negative like. For a while, anyways, a negative public perception of
right.
otaku.
Yeah, so I mean, for a long time, it's always been a negative term, kind of like an insult. But it's kind of.
I mean, at the same time, right? It's like nerd or geek, right?
Yes.
Like
how that's changed, like that. The connotations of that have changed for us over the years. Like, quote unquote. I hate this word, but geek culture. It's with mainstream now, like the Marvel movies and all that, like so it's much more okay now to like comic books and cartoons and stuff like that than it was even like 10 years ago. But
I mean, I think the hope with this kind of development then is like, I mean, fuck it. I think we've already been seeing this for years, right? Is like a lot of the shift and changes in like how anime is presented and what is framed in anime narratives, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, we're still getting your fucking, shield heroes and shit, but like, we were also getting, I don't know,
Yuri on Ice.
Yeah, sure, your Yuri on Ices and such. Again, apologies, it's just like, look, the anime that like female otaku are into probably don't fall in line with my tastes, so I struggle to come up with like valid examples, but they definitely exist. They are out there, and like
even like
or something what Kiwani does, right? Like Free and shit. We have seen this shift in the demographics for a while now.
I wrote that article years ago about how and that was with when Osamatsu came out. I felt like that was like that felt like the turning point to me, and that's when I wrote that article because
I remember
when I actually looked at the top 10 that year, that I think it was like 2015. Like half of the shows were either like for both men and women or for women in the top 10 anime for that year. That's for sales. So like we've definitely seen that shift, and I think it's been for the better. I mean, I think we've had. Because not only have we had more shows aimed toward women, but I feel like we've had more shows that aren't leaning so hard in either demographic that like everybody can.
Sure, yeah.
And I think it's been a pretty positive impact, and I guess changing the perception of the term otaku is kind of maybe a distant byproduct of all that. But it's just I find those kinds of things interesting, but. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to. I wanted to mention this story. Nippon Ichi Software, or NIS, is
Nippon Ichi.
Interesting game company. Most known for the Disgaea series, which I actually enjoy.
I too stand for the Disgaea games, or at least some of them.
Yeah, I can't play every one because they're all identical, but it's kind of like I feel the same way as I feel like Dynasty Warriors, where it's just like every now and then I get in the mood for it.
Yeah, you get in the mood for an extremely granular, highly breakable, like sprite-based, turn-based role-playing game with an irreverent storyline.
So I'll pick. So I'll pick one. I'll pick whatever the latest one is. Pick that up when I get in the mood every couple of years or whatever.
Right. I mean, I love it. Frankly, like I haven't played many of their games in a while because, frankly, related to the story, like Nippon Ichi doesn't really
make that good games these days, but
Yes.
like I've always loved their house art style. You know, I have always loved their very like charming, like no outline kind of chibi look. I think it's I think it has always worked well. Like weird tangent here, but like the Disgaea 1 and 2 art books are like some of the first art books that I ever like physically purchased and owned. Like, I don't know how the fuck that happened, but it happened that way. So
it's a very charming art style. Like, and it holds up really well. Like, you could play Disgaea 1 right now, and it doesn't really look old. Like,
oh yeah, totally.
It still looks pretty good. But
I mean, the other reason for that is also because fucking Disgaea 4 basically looks exactly the same. So
all of the Disgaeas look exactly the same. They did at least in 4 they did update to the HD sprites. If anybody remembers,
that's true.
If anybody remembers the Disgaea 3 debacle when that first came out.
Oh my god! When 3 came out, still using the fucking PS2 sprites.
Yeah, they had the low res sprites on PS3 when that came out because they didn't have time to like upscale them, I guess, or whatever. And it was, they did fix it eventually, I think, for the Vita version, but that was hilarious.
Sure. Anyways, what's going on with Nippon Ichi?
They're not doing so well.
Really?
I heard their Lapis Labyrinth or whatever was just like not bad, but
yeah, that comes out next week and actually looks pretty good. I might pick that up. That looks pretty fun. Lapis Labyrinth, but at the moment they're kind of in bad shape. They had to do they basically lowered. They did a stock sale where they lowered their stock price intentionally to just sell as many shares as possible.
Wow,
which is a super desperation move because that you just destroy your stock. You get quick cash, but you basically destroy your stock price. So you only do that like if you're like about to shut your doors, basically. Which they have basically said we have to pay our employees.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is like,
unlike say Telltale Games.
Yes. I mean, I suppose. I don't know. Again, I don't mean to ascribe like traits to Japanese, game dev culture that it perhaps doesn't deserve, because obviously my understanding is that Japanese game development is just as heinous as Western game development. But at least you hear the stories about like, Iwata taking a pay cut and stuff like that, like
right. People are held accountable.
So like if Nippon Ichi is making this desperate move specifically to at least pay their employees on time, like I can.
That is what they are saying. I mean, a cynical person might say, well, they also have to make it sound as good as they possibly can.
That is a good point. That is a good point. That is why, like I said, I don't want to necessarily ascribe traits to them they don't deserve. But
at least if we're going to take them at their word, then yes,
but,
at least they have the priorities correct.
My understanding is that Nippon Ichi basically like. I mean, my understanding is Nippon Ichi hasn't been doing great for a while, and that like their last big like swing for the fences was I guess they released a gacha game. Like,
right. Didn't this guy gacha game become a huge mess?
It was a disaster on every level. They had to. The game was so that they tried to make a Disgaea gacha game, which probably would have done very well.
Yeah,
but
at least give it a whirl.
I'd give that a whirl, sure. But it never made it to us because it was so buggy and so just non-functional that they had to indefinitely shut it down, which for a gacha game, that's going to be suicide.
Sentence, yeah.
That's a really bad look.
so they have shut it down indefinitely. They estimated, I think, for at least 3 months to fix it. And I'm assuming that is how they got themselves in this situation, because they're going to have to pay their employees to continue fixing it, and that might be their last kind of Hail Mary. I mean, I hope they get it together, because I feel like that actually would be a successful project if they can.
I mean,
get it working.
I think at their core, like people have always like, I don't know many people who are like fucking, standing for Nippon Ichi, but like I think people have always kind of broadly like, enjoyed their specific lane of like kind of like low budget anime game. I've always seen Nippon Ichi as kind of the like less successful, more horny brother of Atlas, like
yes,
right.
The little brother of Atlas,
like
a little more niche, a little weirder.
I mean, it's just like Atlas happened to fucking like get lucky and hit it big with Persona 3, but like before that, like Atlas was basically at the same tier as Nippon Ichi, like putting out like very niche games with very low budgets and tended to reuse a lot of assets. I mean, Shin Megami Tensei series to this day is still using the same artwork since like 1999.
Yes. Yeah. So, hopefully they pull it together.
Yeah.
I'd play this guy a gacha game,
but probably
also put money on it. That's not going to help them. But
look, man, I'd fucking roll for my fucking 5-star Prinny or whatever.
Yes, sure.
And I feel like you'd also throw in like the larger like Nippon Ichi cinematic universe into that game, right? Like roll for like fucking other Nippon Ichi games.
Yeah, the what's that Grimoire game or something? I don't know, but there's enough characters.
Grimoire.
Yes,
there's the Vanillaware one.
Well, I was gonna say Grimoire is the Vanillaware game.
Vanillaware, yeah, my bad.
No, I think there is a Nippon Ichi game with the word Grimoire in it. I
don't think it's Grimoire.
They made there's a game with Joan of Arc in it. I think their version of Joan of Arc. I think
Oh no, you're thinking of That's by level 5.
No. I'm pretty sure there's a Nippon Ichi. There's also a Joan of Arc themed Nippon Ichi game.
Maybe the fact that we can't name another game besides this guy is part of the problem.
Maybe.
They had some of the old ones, like Phantom Brave was one.
Yeah, Phantom Brave.
Sure. That'll bring in the kids.
Here, La Pucelle Tactics.
There we go. That's the one. Yes. Tactics. So that's the one.
Yes. Okay. Yep. I remember that one.
Yes.
Not relevant since 2005. But anyway.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Nippon Ichi.
Yes. Good luck. Good luck to NIS. All right. Final news topic. We have to shout out Promare, which just came out in theaters in Japan a couple days ago.
Yeah.
They also streamed what they said was the opening action sequence. I don't know if you guys got the chance to watch that.
Yeah, I saw that. They also showed the first 5 minutes of the movie itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, initial thoughts, G. You're the you're our number one Trigger fan here. So,
I really actually love the way it looks. Like, to go back to that Spiderverse conversation. I feel like Promare is maybe one of the first, because the thing with Promare, if you're not familiar with it, is it's it is the next big production from Twitter featuring not Twitter, from Trigger, featuring the dynamic duo of Emaishi and Nakashima, also known for Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann. And the notable thing I would say about Promare, though, is that it is primarily CG. The characters are 2D. But the mechs and the environments are CG. But I think Promare is making it work because they're kind of doing the Spiderverse thing of really leaning into a very particle effects heavy CG style. That's very flashy, very colorful. They're making it a point that look, we're not going to try and emulate hand-drawn, nor are we going to try and make it look like a PS2 cutscene. We're going to lean into the strengths of CG. So these very big, blocky, polygonal shapes that
flat colors.
And it's super stylish. Jel, you should. I'll link the first 5 minutes of the movie in the Discord later because Jel, as the resident kind of graphic design guy, I think you should at least check out the opening, the title. The title sequence of Promare is one of the slickest pieces of graphic animation I have seen in a while.
Because the clip I saw was the action bit, which was only 3 minutes or something of it.
But the first 5 minutes, I kind of like the first 5 minutes more as a first taste of Promare. There's no action, but it really sets up kind of triggers very distinctive style and flair, but yeah, I sorry, go ahead. I'll continue with my thoughts afterward.
I'll have to check it out because I do feel like watching the action sequence. I don't know if I was just tired at the time or whatever. I was watching it late last night. It kind of hurt my eyes a little.
It's very extra.
There's a lot going on, a lot to process, and I do agree. They do a good job of finding a unique art style that works well with CG. You can still, obviously, you can still tell it's CG in some spots.
whatever. Totally.
It's doesn't quite look like anything else.
Yeah, I think that's why I really like it, or why I've been really digging its look so far. Like, I have never, like, I'm not gonna say never. Like, there are definitely artists that Promare is clearly drawing inspiration from, but like, I've never really seen like a mainstream anime production like with backgrounds like this, with CG effects like this. You know, it's like there's a very clear like intentional art direction in it. Like, you know, I'm going to mention this now, which, you know, I wish everybody would just notice this organically, but I cannot get enough of it, is like when you watch these clips of Promare, like they use like really smart, amazing like shape language to like define like their characters and their scenes. Like anytime fire is invoked, anytime the theme of fire is invoked, they use triangular shapes.
Okay.
And then like the way their fire looks is like this fucking wild, like the particles that are coming off the flames are just little triangles. It's a really slick design choice. And then anytime water or like extinguishing is invoked, they use square shapes. Like the extinguisher fluid they shoot to like stop the fires is actually a bunch of like kind of like almost how could I forget his name? You know, the Bones animator.
Utapon.
Yes, like when they shoot like their extinguisher fluid, it looks like a bunch of like tiny Utapon cubes.
Sure.
Like, so you see like these square-shaped Utapon cubes clashing with these triangle, like Dorito-shaped flames. It's actually like a really slick design choice, to the point where like during like the daytime scenes that are meant to be heroic, and I've only watched a few minutes and I've already noticed this, even the lens flare is square-shaped.
That's pretty good.
Like, it's really slick. It's a really slick design choice. They have, like, we always know Trigger as, like, oh, these wacky, irreverent guys who do crazy shit, but, like, again, this way, I would almost say I prefer the first 5 minutes of this movie that don't have any action, but just kind of set up the setting and the scene, because, like, you immediately see, like, the, like, fucking high-tier, like, art direction that a guy like Amaishi can achieve, like, when he is focused on something. It's really cool, and I think I will totally grant, though, that like those action scenes, like I think Iro mentioned this, I think this movie will be exhausting to watch, and
yeah,
I don't think I necessarily mean that, like I don't think that's in a bad way. I think it's going to be like, but it's going to be like visual eye candy nonstop. Like it's going to assail your senses, and it, you know, being those guys and the way they pace their stories, you know, I don't think there's going to be a lot of break moments. So, like, you know,
yeah,
I think it's going to be very, like, visually interesting, but, like, also, you know, definitely the kind of thing that you're probably going to have to, like, brace yourself for, you know? But,
so
I'm really looking forward to it.
Come on and announce some American showings already. Jesus Christ.
Really?
No, I'm saying,
really?
Come on and do that already, please.
Oh, come on and do it.
Okay.
Okay, I thought you said they did.
I wish.
Because that's the thing.
We're getting fucking shipping the Tanya the Evil or whatever, but no Promare.
Right, so that's the big complaint, right, is that no Western showing has been announced yet for Promare.
Right.
Which I think, we've gotten into this a bit, I think it's...
Go ahead.
I think it's a weird choice because, like, I think Trigger have always been known as the Western-friendly anime studio, right? They appeal to Western sensibilities, and, like, Trigger themselves have said in panels that, like, man, you guys are way better than our Japanese fans. Like, so I think it's kind of striking, actually, the absence of a Western, like, release date. And I wonder how much of that is, like, a rights-holding thing. I wonder how much of that is, like, a publication thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, because, like Iro mentioned, because I just saw a bunch of people going to see that horrible Tanya the Evil or whatever movie. Like in 2019, it's actually pretty common for anime movies to get screenings over here.
Yeah, like you don't even need to be fucking Dragon Ball Z anymore to get like you know, a show in theaters.
So like I'm wondering, the one thing I haven't been paying attention to though is how soon after it gets released in Japan it gets screened over here. So maybe it's just a matter of time.
Fair. Right. That's a good point.
On the flip side, I feel like if they were going to do screenings, you have to announce it first and give people time to buy tickets and everything.
Right.
So then that would be, even if they announced it today, that'd be putting it, like 2 months out or something like that.
Well,
so like
things that are happening in 2 months. So this is very unfortunate. This is going to be very unfortunate if this turns out to be true, because me and Iro, well, especially me, being the fucking fool I am, will drag Iro to this. My sneaking suspicion is Trigger might be saving the Western debut of Promare for Anime Expo.
So here's the thing, though. Trigger people have not yet been confirmed for Anime Expo, but they've been confirmed for Otakon, which is like 2 weeks after Anime Expo.
Really? Yeah. That's interesting. I think they have to do Anime Expo, right? Like, Trigger is like one of the biggest draws at Anime Expo.
But for you.
Like, oh, not just for me. Have you seen the fucking lines for the Trigger panel every goddamn year? Like, I swear to God, I feel like we fucking line up earlier and earlier for that fucking panel every goddamn time. And look, I love Trigger. It is pushing my love for them to a boundary that I'm not sure I can tolerate any further. And it's not even Trigger's fault. It's Anime Expo's fault, honestly. But
right. But I mean, yeah, Otakon is confirmed that they have Wakabayashi, Chikata Koyama, and Animaishi as guests. So,
well, maybe they're going to do the tour, stop at Anime Expo, and then
maybe they're just going to take like a 3-week vacation.
I ain't flying to Washington D.C. for
no. And
oh man, they also are getting radio there. Jesus Christ.
Wait, really? I don't know. Are you going to fly there now?
I'm so mad I got fucking screwed that year.
I mean...
Maybe I should go. I mean, I could drive.
Yeah, that's not too far, honestly. I mean, look, I got to be honest. If Jam Project ever announced that they were coming back to play in the States, like, I don't care what convention it is. Like, if I had the money, I would at least consider making the trip.
Sure.
So...
I'm just... Yeah.
But, yeah, that's... I don't know what else we can really say about it. I think
stay tuned.
Yeah, it looks cool, but of course we're gonna have to wait till the whole movie comes out, and fucking who can say when that's happening?
Yeah, I wouldn't give up hope.
On
it getting a screening, but it's just weird that if they were gonna do it,
I think it will eventually. I think it has to, right? Like, I think this is because the one last tangent I want to go on here is. Promare is Trigger's last big announced work.
Right, I don't know. We don't know what they're doing next. Like,
we don't know what's next. Like a few years back, it was Promare, Gridman, and Darling in the Franxx.
Yep.
Right.
All three of those have aired and are finished. Trigger is a blank slate now, and like that is. I mean, look, if you ask me, that is very exciting because, like, I mean, a lot of that is thanks to Gridman. I think that look, if Darling in the Franxx was the only thing Trigger put out in the last 4 years, like, I would be deeply worried. But Gridman gives me hope again that there's a fire in Trigger again, and I want to see where it goes. I want to see where Amamiya goes from here.
Yeah, he really put himself on the map with that. It's nice to be excited about Trigger outside of just Amaishi,
right? Or even like Yoshinari. We don't know what Yoshinari's doing right now. Like we don't know if it's another Little Witch Academia or if he's doing something new. Like. I keep hoping one day Sushio will direct his own anime. Like, there are talented people at Trigger beyond just Amaishi, and they haven't announced what they're doing yet. And, it's kind of like when a game studio you really like, hasn't said anything in a while. You're kind of excited because, who knows what's on the horizon.
Maybe they'll save that announcement for Anime Expo. With their
I definitely suspect at bare minimum.
Hopefully. Like, I've been keeping an eye on the Anime Expo announcements, and they've not yet announced anything related to Trigger. So I'll keep an eye out. As much as I hate going into the city.
As much as we fucking actually hate Anime Expo, like...
Yeah,
we'll fucking do it anyways because we're fucking fools. So
yes,
see if it's a fucking 120 degrees there again.
I think you would regret it if you didn't.
Right.
But
anyway, the 1 year I didn't go to Anime Expo, I did regret it. So
yeah. So that wraps up the news. We'll keep our eyes out for Promare and/or Anime Expo announcements from Trigger. Let's wrap things up here by actually talking about a little bit of anime.
Yeah, we'll do that now. An hour and 15 into this podcast.
I still don't have this timing down yet because I figured this time we're not going to have. We had Chris and Collins on last time. They had their little backstory to give and everything. I figured we talked that out.
That was great.
I feel like the Mecha Samurai Empire discussion maybe weighed things
made
on.
That made up for that, yeah.
And then,
but well, I'll get it one of these days, and then the season will be over.
Yes.
So let's talk about Carole and Tuesday.
Yeah.
And why the show is pissing me off.
All right.
So
just get into it, Jill. I want to hear your takes first.
Yeah, so let me get my takes off here. So we ended last time, episode 5. They've been trying all these crazy get famous quick schemes, and the end result ended up being, you know what, we're going to have to go to this little club, play in front of 10 people, and work our way from the bottom. And I'm like, you know what, great. That sounds like a appropriate thematic place to go because all their schemes have not been working. I can't watch their manager anymore. I don't know why he's
Gus
here anymore. Like I understand the type of character they're going for, but I don't think it's working because he's just making me angry every time he's on screen now because he's completely useless.
I am not as incited towards Gus, but I definitely understand where you're coming from. As he is the fat bumbling comic relief character, but also I feel like those characters should still occasionally
prove their worth.
What is more satisfying in a story than when the comic relief fucking swings in and saves the day, right? Like that is always everybody's favorite episode, right? Is when
right, and that's not happening, and not anywhere close. It's actually
not even remotely.
It's actually a detriment to the career.
Right, I was like, that's a crime.
So like I was saying, at the end of 5, we're at a spot where I'm like, okay, now we can move forward because now they realize, okay, we're gonna have to put in the work and really, build up a musicianship and build up a following the way you're supposed to do it. I'm like, that makes sense to me, and that seemed to be the message of the show. But then episode 6 and 7, we're diving right back into the get famous quick schemes that aren't working.
Right.
I guess it remains to be seen what. Because episode 6 they go in this huge they get booked into this huge festival.
Right, they go to Mars Burning Man.
Right, either booked subs for another.
Right, and it goes very very badly. They had no business being there.
They get hugged by Space Beyonce.
Yes, they get hugged by Space Beyonce, sure, but still they had no business being there, and it was another Like Carole and Tuesday know that these schemes are not working. Like we've established that they understand, and yet they're still playing along with them.
Right, they're still getting dragged into these schemes. It feels like they've kind of lost a sense of agency. I think the thing we were all hoping with Carole and Tuesday is we would be watching these two young women kind of strike forward, in a very unsteady, uncertain future career, and kind of watch, kind of experience their victories and their defeats with them, the mistakes they make, but also the strides they make. But every plot development has basically been what crazy scheme does Gus or Roddy come up with this week to drag them into stardom, and
which is doomed to fail.
Yeah, and I don't know, here's the thing. I think there's still episodes and moments of this show that I am genuinely enjoying. I still like the show, but I definitely see where you're coming from, Jel, with Carole and Tuesday don't really have any agency. I feel like a character like Gus, it's fine to have a goofy, bumbling scoundrel character, but they need to justify their presence at least just often enough to be oh, that's why we keep him around, Because here's the thing, I think Watanabe has actually always done pretty good with casts of misfits. You look at Cowboy Bebop, you look at Samurai Champloo, you look at Space Dandy. Those are all shows that are about misfits, and they're all shows about how everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Even something Cowboy Bebop, which is ostensibly about Spike Spiegel, that dude fucks up all the time. He has to get bailed out by the rest of the crew. He is not he's not perfect. Same thing with Samurai Champloo. It's about a couple of misfits. One's a serious guy and one's a goofy guy, but they still have to save each other from time to time. Even Space Dandy.
But they all prove their worth at some point.
Right, exactly.
They all get their turn.
Fucking even Meow gets a good episode in Space Dandy, right? That dude doesn't fucking do shit. like I think the thing like, and I don't know when the Meow episode was. Was that like in the first season? Was that like near the end? Like I don't remember what episode
was written by Kimiko Ueno.
Right, by the good Space Dandy writer. But I guess I don't know. It's like I think like to justify Gus's presence, he needs that episode. Like I feel like what we need is an episode from his perspective of like to show that like maybe he truly does mean well, like maybe he truly does, because we get like little snippets of it. We get tiny snippets of him saying that he truly believes in these girls.
I don't even question that he means well. I don't think he's entirely trying to scam them. I think he's just not good at his job because the industry has passed him by. That's
right, and I get that. And I think that's why I say we need an episode where he gets a win to justify his presence. Right, like he needs an episode where like he bumbles his way through things because he doesn't get how the music industry works anymore, but like maybe something about his old-timey charm manages to work and like get the girls a small gig, right? And like maybe that whole episode could be centered on him busting his ass, like fucking going through all these trials and tribulations, just like that episode of Cowboy Bebop where they get the Betamax player. like have Gus go through hell and hell on earth just to achieve like one tiny victory. And from the girls' perspective, they're like, that's all you got us. But like, that's the kind of episode that could help us empathize with the character.
See, but that's what I thought
have right now.
That's what I thought we did in episode 5, because he got the gig in the little club that was only like 10 people, which was not much. Right. But that was like their most successful.
But also, wasn't that more Roddy than Gus?
It was Roddy.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Yes, I take it back. He actually is. Yeah,
like Roddy's the one who begs for the gig and says, "I believe in these girls." Roddy is the one who's actually like, "I will take risks to vouch for these girls. Like, I will take risks to my personal like well-being and like physical possessions."
Like, get some stuff in the music video episode. Just the music video doesn't work out at all. Right.
Like that's the thing I kind of liked about the music video episode is like he cashes in like his favors. Right. He goes
talks to his ex-wife.
He talks to his ex-wife, and it's clear that like while they are cordial, they don't have the best relationship anymore. But he is still willing to like suck it up and like beg her for help because like he believes in these girls. And it's like the problem though is like I love that episode, but like that whole episode's efforts is played for comedy,
right?
So like you don't really
nothing comes of it at the end,
right? And I guess I don't know. It's like I think. At this point with Carole and Tuesday, like I think I'm still enjoying it a lot. I think it's just that I've also now have to come to accept that I'm mostly here for like the music.
Right. So that was my question. That was my question for you, G. Is in the past you've been you have mentioned that you have not cared much for the music in this show, and I'd like to ask you, over the past couple episodes, has your opinion changed at all?
I would say. I think episode 6 has had some of the best music we have heard in this show so far.
That is the episode with Space Beyonce, right? And
yes, and Space Beyonce and Space
Thundercat.
Space Thundercat. Yes. Oh, Thundercat is the name of the singer. Right. Yes. I forget the Skip. Skip is his name, right? Like to give some context. So that is the episode where like we kind of get Watanabe like being a big fucking boomer again because like he introduces like the two characters that are like, oh, these are the real musicians, right? Like you introduce Skip, who is like this really like initially gruff looking, mean looking black dude, right? And then you find out like, oh, he's like this because like, oh, he's a real musician, he's got soul, like he hasn't sold out, like. And you have Space Beyonce, who is like implied to have sold out, but is like so fucking good at her shit that like it doesn't really matter. And like, I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's the intention, or maybe it's that it's my personal taste. But like the two tracks associated with those two characters, I was very much more into.
I was watching.
They're better than Ertiga anyway, right?
Yes, definitely better than Ertiga.
I was watching it with Zig the other day. And when Space Beyonce did her song, what's her actual name? Crystal? Was it Crystal?
Crystal.
Zig was like, if this released today in the UK, it would be a like top 5 hit instantly.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing, right? I think Crystal's song. I'm not gonna say Crystal's song is fucking amazing, but it's a very solid like pop track, like an R&B inspired pop track, and like. hence the comparisons, Space Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I mean, again, and maybe it's because of that. Maybe it's because, like, this is the track where you can clearly tell, like, or Skip's track is clearly where you could see the influence from Flying Lotus. Like,
Yeah.
And so, again, these are, these kind of hip hop and R&B and pop tracks are slightly more in my lane. So maybe that's why I'm more, like, positively inclined towards them. But also, maybe this is me wanting to believe that this is Watanabe trying to be like, oh, no, don't worry. Like, there's going to be good music in this show. This is what it sounds like.
Yeah. Sure. I guess it just feels like these 2 episodes felt like a step backwards to me.
Narratively.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, narratively, I think...
Especially 7, because 7 they go on
America's Got Talent.
That's a fun episode, though.
Well, yeah, so... no,
7 is a Space Dandy episode.
Oh, yeah, okay. I do. There's a little bit more I want to talk about on that, because basically they go on America's Got Talent, right?
Yes,
or whatever, or Mars Has Talent, or whatever you want to call it. And again, I feel like this is a step backwards from what they were trying to tell us before, where now they're getting famous instantly. But it was a fun episode. There was a lot of fun things going on, and they try to drop some heavy stuff in the back half of it too, I guess.
With the implications of Angela's.
Angela's, and we learn a little more about Carole's backstory too.
Yes.
Which I feel like that stuff is, I guess, kind of needed to make the series feel a little more substantial, but also just kind of felt like out of nowhere. In this episode. So
hear me out on this then. I'm going to say that I think in a vacuum, I think episode 7 is in a lot of ways close to what I would actually kind of want from the platonic ideal version of Carole and Tuesday. And the reason for that is, like, yes, it's wacky. The premise is wacky. We're going to fucking go to this big audition. But, like, what you get as a result is, like, this really funny, like, again, Space Dandy-esque comical sequence.
And then it leads into like genuine character stuff, like heartfelt character stuff between the Carole and Tuesday.
Like, I think they had a conversation that I think I actually needed from this show for a long time, is, like, what is Carole and Tuesday's actual relationship? Like, we see them meet up in episode 1, they hit it off and become friends, and then
kind of just been hanging out.
They've been basically side characters for half the show.
7 episodes, how much of Carole and Tuesday actually talked to each other? Like, not that much, actually. It's mostly just like, hey, let's write a song.
They are a unit. Okay. They're a single character unit called Carole and Tuesday, speaking to everyone else. Like,
I feel like this is the first episode in a while where we finally had Carole and Tuesday being like, oh, this is why we're friends. Like, this is why we get along. And I think I really needed that. And I think that, like, moments like that in a vacuum are what would make episodes like episode 7, like, what I want out of this show. The wacky, like, get rich quick scheme I'm not as into, but, like, in terms of, like, point by point, like, presentation of plot beats and, like, how they're executed, I do think that episode 7 is really solid in that regard. And I think the reason why, Jell, at least in your case, you're kind of feeling more down on it, though, is because outside of vacuum, in context of being the 7th episode of Carole and Tuesday, it's kind of like the 3rd or 4th in a line of, like, weird, like, overarching narrative missteps.
Yeah, like, are they going to fail the competition, or is this how they're going to get famous, which is going to betray the whole built up thematically that we've had?
It's kind of a, like, affectation to get them in conflict with Angela, right?
Right, I think that is the actual point of all this. Like,
yeah,
look, this is a 2-core anime, so I assume what's going to happen is, like, it's going to be like actual America's Got Talent or whatever, where, like, Carole and Tuesday are going to get into the semifinals against Angela, but, like, Angela will just barely pull out ahead and get the record deal.
Right,
like, Carole and Tuesday, like, still, like, gets the attention of, like, somebody important just because, they made it that far, right? Like, that's going to be the actual...
That's probably where we're headed, and then, right.
Look, man, in a lot of ways, it's just like fucking Megalobox. Like, at the end of the day, like, Carole and Tuesday, it's all about their final showdown with Angela, at the end of all of this, and it's just about all the fucking musical fodder we throw in between them. So...
Well...
But,
made my feelings clear on Megalobox before, so.
I will say one last thing that I think contributes to your point, Jel, is, again, I feel like all these get-rich-quick schemes, like, I think maybe some of this is indicative of, again, I keep hating this, I hate to keep saying it, but, like, Watanabe's, like, maybe slightly out of touch, like, nature with, like, what the music industry is.
Oh, totally.
Whereas, like a musician gets big through talent shows and Burning Man. Like, like, my dude, have you heard of SoundCloud? Have you heard of YouTube? Like, I'm not, again, I have thoughts about SoundCloud rappers, but, like,
it's a thing, though.
But it's a thing, and here's the thing: it is a completely valid way of making your career in 2019 as a musician. In fact, like, some might argue that for an indie musician, it is the only way to make your career. If you don't want to deal with, like, the fucking moral compromise that are labels, like, but so, like, the idea that, like, in fucking 2300 on Mars or fucking whatever, at least someone like Roddy has not, again, Roddy, who took a video of them that made them go viral. Like, the fact that Roddy of all people has not just suggested, why don't you just upload your songs to SoundCloud? Or, like, even to your Instagram.
To your Instagram account or something,
Like, you took a photo on Instagram, just post a video of you playing on the streets on Instagram, dog. Like, I'm not saying playing the social media game is easy. I'm not saying it is always viable. As somebody who is currently trying to do that and failing miserably, like, let me tell you, I'm not saying it's a guaranteed scheme, but, like, the fact that the show doesn't even, like, entertain the concept.
Like, Roddy's connected enough to get a retweet. I mean, you can put the video up, get the retweet. And,
I mean, look, if before Carole and Tuesday had, like, almost burnt down Erdogan's house, like, I feel like instead of, I feel like, again, this speaks to, like, Watanabe's sensibility, because I feel like the actual, like, my cynical take on how Carole and Tuesday would actually, like, rise up in the music industry is Roddy would just be like, hey, Erdogan, can you do a favor for me and, like, retweet, like, this Instagram post about girls playing music? And then, Erdogan would be like, nah, cool, ask my secretary to do it. And then you see, at the real Erdogan, like, 2300, like, yo, check out, like, 2369.
He definitely has a 69 in his Twitter handle.
Right.
Yes.
Like, check out, like, these cool chicks on Instagram. Like, that's how you would actually do it in the modern day era,
Right. I mean, this is the guy who referenced for his titles this week, The Band and Peter Frampton. So,
God, fucking. I'm not even hating on these tracks. I'm just like.
But yes, he has not made a musical reference past 1989 on these episode titles yet, right? So,
yeah.
All right. We got a lot of that show to go. So, I mean, by the end, maybe they'll turn their things around. I'm just getting more frustrated with it, I guess.
Right. I do want to make it clear. I think I'm still enjoying it. I'm still, looking forward to it week to week.
I'm still watching it. There's still a level that I'm enjoying it at, but I just feel disappointed that I feel like it could be so much better, and it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we've said. Like, it's Watanabe directing, so, like, for better or worse, it gets held to a certain standard that, like,
You wouldn't complain the pieces are there if you had not been saying, "Well, nobody's going to save anime," like 2 months ago.
Yeah,
I did not say. I did not say he was going to save anime.
The general you, not the you specifically.
But I mean, I don't think anyone was really. Well, I mean, I wasn't saying that. I think people were saying, "Oh, Watanabe doing an anime about music, like, what could possibly go wrong?" you know?
That sets me up, Ira, because you know who I did say would save anime. Let's move along.
Right. Noted Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles director.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So he also is directing a little show called Sarazanmai, which we can talk about. Which Kappa are basically turtles, right? So maybe can we make the connection?
Yeah. No, I think that is accurate. Yeah. Like,
they're like turtle. They're like half turtle at least.
I mean,
right?
Would you call a kappa closer to a frog or a turtle?
They're like, it's like both, because they have a shell on their back.
I would say turtle. Like,
so if a kappa is half frog and half turtle, and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is half human and half frog, then, I mean, it's the same amount of...
Half human. They were sprinkled with ooze and mutated.
Half human, half turtle, you mean?
They're humanoid. Yes, that's what I meant. Yes, so they're humanoid turtles. It's about the same.
Man.
Close enough.
Well, whatever. Are these kappa? Are they also in a half shell turtle power?
Heroes in a half shell.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But so we had episode 6 and 7 of Sarazanmai. Ira, I don't know if you've caught up.
I have
on
not
it at
seen
all.
episode 7. I've caught up to episode 6.
Okay.
I am still not watching this show.
So 6 I thought was really good. They kind of cashed in a lot of the plot details and everything, and kind of cleaned up some of the stuff going on with the main kid, Kazuki, and his troubles with his brother. So, we kind of had which was interesting because we're only at the halfway point, and I feel like we've mostly tied up his thematic.
Right. That was kind of my question of after episode 6 is because the whole gimmick is when they fuse when they Sarazanmai to defeat the monster, like some of their deepest, darkest secrets are revealed, and like everyone's sordid backstories have already been revealed at this point. It's like what's left to reveal on a plot level.
They've done enough of them at this point. Episode 6, because because episode 6 was a little bit different. They went off the script because like his brother gets kidnapped and everything, and they kind of set up. I'm not going to get into all of it now. You can go read my post on episode 6.
The otter cops.
Yes,
looks like they will graduate from being just graduate from being the Rita Repulsa and start being more active in the plot.
Yes. So basically, we established that you have the kappa as the supposedly good guys, I guess, and the otters as the bad guys.
Did you just say otter cops?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like otter cops.
Well, they look like humans, but they're working for the Otter Empire,
right.
which the otters are the natural.
Right. My understanding is like many myths, kappa have a foot in reality, and my understanding is like the creatures that were often mistaken for kappa were river otters. Is my understanding.
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
So
yes.
Of course
so
they're
in
the kappa or something. I don't know.
Yeah, in Sarazanmai, they've decided to use otters as the bad guys, and so the hot cops that we've seen throughout the show are working for the otters. I'm not entirely clear if they actually are otters or not. I don't think they are, based on episode 7.
Okay,
but they are working for them, and we haven't really. They've been like the most mysterious element up to now, and like Iro said, we're kind of switching over to them taking a stronger part of the narrative, because episode 6 kind of ends with a flashback where I guess they were there when the otters destroyed the Kappa Empire or whatever, and the guy with the glasses basically dies. At the end of episode 6,
but he's alive because he's got the clockwork heart or whatever in the.
What?
Yeah, so like when you see their big song and dance number, and the guy like pulls out his heart, that's what's keeping him alive. It's like some kind of mechanical heart thing, and they, I don't know, Iro, if you care if I spoil this in episode 7, but you can probably piece together.
Go ahead.
A little bit of it as to basically they're being forced to do the zombie kappa thing to keep the glasses guy alive. Okay. And so they have and they do show in episode 6 the other guy is looking for Kepi, who's the Kappa Prince guy that makes the hope dishes that grant your wish. So you can kind of put two. They never say it, but you can kind of put 2 and 2 together why he would be looking for the hope dishes now.
Okay, yeah.
So that seems to be the plot we're moving into for the second half. Episode 7 does also end introducing kind of spinning it back to Toei, the blue hair kid, the delinquent kid. His the drug dealer kid. Toward the end, his brother calls him and says he's in trouble or something, and I think that's also. I think those 2 plot lines are where the show's going to go. Just kind of interesting that like the stuff that happened. Like episode 6 was very good, and it felt like that could have been like the last episode of the show.
Right.
But we're still going. So there's still some stuff to get into. I won't spoil the Sarazanmai in episode 7, but there are still some.
But I am enjoying the show generally. It's straightforward. I can follow what's going on.
Yes, yeah. I do want to hear what you think, Iro, because as we've discussed, you have not really been into Ikuhara's works before.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying it. It's fine. Like, I don't think I'm pulling any particularly deep meaning out of it necessarily, as I feel like I'm expected to with an Ikuhara show or something. But I'm able to follow what's going on, and I'm enjoying the stock footage spectacle.
Right. Yeah. Yes. We got a break from the stock footage in episode 6, but they brought it back in 7, so we get that whole 5-minute block of recycled animation every week. But I mean, as far as if you're talking about meaning, like I said, I would suggest just go reading my post on episode 6 where I talk about they introduce a new element to the whole connecting through desires, and they start talking about connecting through love and how that's different. And I think that's kind of the main meaningful theme that they're going to. And I kind of talk about how, and I think most people have kind of interpreted similarly, the nature of desires being selfish and love being unselfish, and how that's kind of the lesson that Kazuki learns in his
because
arc.
they
and we'll kind of see how
the kappa zombies kidnap people and suck out their desires, and that kills them or something, or erases them from existence. But if the desires are out of love and not out of desire, then it doesn't work or something.
Right, they reject them basically. It's not going to work, which we learn with Kazuki and his little brother, because they're family and they have love, and it's not just a desire thing. But so there is some substance to it, I think.
Sure. But
it is, like we were saying, it's the most straightforward Ikuhara anime.
With me,
pretty there's some weird things going on, but you can kind of piece together what's happening. So yeah, once again, I have to recommend, if you've ever been even slightly interested in his work, this is probably a good time to jump in.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to see if they can keep up, because I did very much enjoy Kazuki's story as kind of being the heart of it, and I don't know if I'm invested enough in the hot cops to accept them as the main driving force of the plot yet. But we'll see.
Yeah.
This only being a one core show, from what I understand.
We're 3/4 through.
Yeah.
Somehow.
There's only 5 episodes.
Y'all ready for the next season?
So not a lot of time.
Hey!
Woo! Hey! Can't be worse than this one, right?
Yeah, I haven't even had time to look yet. Although I'm gonna have to soon, because June's
the final bastion of
So we're actually. Are we gonna have to do a preview next?
Maybe.
Episode?
No, I think it's 2 more.
Calendar.
Right?
Oh,
yeah, it's gotta be
2 more. I think it's maybe 1 more. I think it's 1 more and then the preview.
No. I think it'll be 2, because we usually do the preview and then the first look, and the first look is going to be
yeah. I guess when you put it like that, yeah, that probably.
So I think we'll have 1 more episode for this season, and then we'll do preview.
No, that's what I said. I think we have 1 more normal one of these.
Right, and we got to do final.
Right.
Final impressions. I don't know.
The final impressions.
Isn't it usually preview, final impressions, first impressions?
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work.
Oh, the end of the podcast on tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with all that said, we're going to call it a podcast.
Agreed.
Time for some basic housekeeping.
Yes, we'll keep our internal affairs internal. Yes. So housekeeping. Go ahead and read everything that we write at theglorioblog.com. And like I said, including my Sarazanmai coverage for more detailed thoughts on that. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. You can check out this podcast as well as our other podcasts, Neon Genesis Evangelion, where we're watching/rewatching Neon Genesis Evangelion. three of us, and Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, where G and Iroh are watching the Legend of the Galactic Heroes. And you can check all that out on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean. We also upload to YouTube. You can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Please subscribe. I feel like we haven't showed that in a while. And so tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll see everybody next time.
Bye.
See you later.
Hotel いい子にしてられない街に繰り出す